Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We have two sets of paint pens. This is the 3mm big fat acrylic acrylic paint pens by Imuki. I don't know how you pronounce that. And then I have some the 42 paint pens set by Artistry. They come in different configurations. The difference for me between, I don't know, like a 20 pen set and a 40 pen set, I don't know, it wasn't double, I don't think. But this one right here just has so many more colors and different values within each hue that I find convenient. Now, it's especially convenient when I'm thinking about something like doing a scene like this one, where this one doesn't have any browns in it, okay? There's no browns in the Imoki 24 pen set. And I can understand that. I mean, they're selling these pens. It's like for the... I don't know, it's a different market, okay? Now, there might be other sets out there that might contain, you know, much, much bigger selections of different hues and values within each hue, okay? Different intensities, maybe, and so on and so forth. But I don't know, the way that I always see these marketed is for these really big, bold, kind of pattern types of drawings or painting, like, on rocks. Okay, you know what I mean? It's not designed for, you know, like nuanced, you know, types of applications and, you know, real detailed areas. Although, you know, I mean, I guess you can get fairly detailed with this, even though it has a big old fat tip on it. But, you know, you're just kind of barely touching down with it. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to grab a couple of the brown tones from my Artistro set to just kind of supplement what's going on with the larger ones. We'll see how it goes, though, when we start using these. You know, I never know exactly. I mean, look at these colors right here, these kind of unique colors right here. I haven't even used this one yet. It hasn't even been mixed up. But this is the way these ones look, pre-mixing, and then if you kind of have them sitting around for a while, they will separate in here like that. So you always have to shake them up sufficiently before each use, and that's a good thing that I've learned from using my white paint pen Meowsen one, which I think is probably the same manufacturer as the Artistro, because all these different pen barrels, tips, and caps all look the same. They just, I don't know, some of them are clear in the barrel, some of them are opaque, and they all have kind of different types of labels. Some of it's just like a sticker label kind of wrapped on, you know, around on the outside, and some of them are like printed right onto the barrel itself. This one's a lot cheaper, probably for I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious to know what's underneath this wrapper, if it's blank or not. It might even say Artistro. I don't know. Okay, so we have these pens ready to go. Okay, now the thing about this scene right here is I haven't used these large pens on glossy cardstock. I've been using it more on the silk types of finishes, the dull finish, okay? Not dull in terms of interest, but, you know, it's just a coated paper, but slightly coated and kind of closer to your matte types of cardstocks. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it will work on glossy, and I was thinking, well, it should work just fine in terms of an application, because these types of pens, you know, the acrylic pens are designed to dry on just about anything, or to stick to just about anything. Rocks, glass, anything, you know. So if it sticks to things like that, and plastic, you know, metals, you know, paper's going to be no problem for it, okay? I should try it on foil sometime. I'm sure it would stick to that, but okay. That being said, I have a stamped sketch from a previous video using the covered bridges, okay? I'm going to supplement this impression. Now, I just did this one all in black just to show how the designs are all kind of designed to be used seamlessly and in an easy overlapping fashion of, you know, placement, okay? But one of the things that I'm going to do on here is I'm going to get some extra impressions in color, at least for my leaves up top. Okay, I'm going to do this one in a fall color scheme. So we're thinking reds and everything like that, right? Naturally. But one of the things for me, I don't like just coloring this like in a, you know, candy apple red or something like that and stamping it. I think it'll look okay, but I think it looks a little bit more kind of natural. If you add different kind of nuances in here. Now I have a video on how to add, you know, variations to your stamp impressions. I find that people don't do this anymore. Everyone used to do this back when, but I don't know. I think it's kind of a lost type of technique, but I've laid down some dark brown on here, and I'm just going back in now with a big, heavy Marvy brush marker, and I'm not going over the whole thing. I'm just kind of coloring some of these leaves like this, okay? And I'll do it with red and orange, okay, so we get some variations of those fall colors within here, but we'll also have the influence of that same type of ink. These are all dye-based ink pens, okay, and this was a dye-based ink pad, all right? You can mix and match brands too, but we'll see what we get from this, okay? I might even go for multiple impressions here just because of all the coloring that we're doing, okay? Let's try to go for 3 impressions. This is going to act like something kind of in the distance, you know, when we do it in red like that. Okay, here's second impression right here, and here's third. Now, I didn't go for a big impression because I was just going for that, you know, area up top where I have these overhanging tree limbs. It looks like we're standing underneath, you know, a canopy of leaves there. All right, now you can add more if you want to, but I think that'll do it for me, because this one's going to be more about kind of really bold applications of color on here. Okay, now here's the thing too. I don't want to just color with these big bulky markers like this, okay? It's just not going to be... we would lose kind of the design of the stamps. Now you can use this as a platform to do kind of more of a pointillist type of painting where you can't see the imagery at all anymore, but that's not what I'm going after here. I'm going after more of a subtle type of a transition of color maybe and values in here. So I'm going to lay down a foundation of some dye-based inks in here, and the use of the paint pens are going to, there'll be a significant role, but it's, the pens will supplement my tones that I lay down in here, okay, with a foundation of these dye-based inks. Okay, now I'm going to use the Distress Antique Linen and Walnut Stained Brown tones again. If you notice that, that's what I did on this one here too. It was a foundation of brown, and I built it up with some red and orange on those leaves, okay? All right, so this is Antique Linen. This is just a paper towel here, okay? And going in, oops, I really smeared my freshly stamped leaves up there, but that's fine, okay? Now I stamped this a while back, so all this black is really dry. But if it's not, if you just stamped it out, go ahead and just heat set it, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, now this is just a really light value here in the Antique Linen. It's a really great one, but I don't know, some people might not like it in terms of what it looks like just as a color in itself, okay? A lot of people are used to doing like one color applications of ink. Yeah, in terms of kind of their placement of it. But I like to use it as a base coat like that, okay? You might not even be able to see much of it in the end result, okay? But it'll play a significant role in the end, okay? All right, now here comes the walnut stain. It's quite a bit darker. Now, I don't see this whole area as something to color uniformly, though, okay? So I'm just kind of hitting it here and there. I'm kind of going like this around in areas. And you might say, well, okay, that's fine for you to say, but where do we know how to do, you know, this type of thing? Well, there's no set fixed area, but what I'm doing is here's the base of the trees. So in my kind of thought, I give the base of the trees a little bit more tone, like they're casting a shadow down here. So there's that line, okay? But where I go from there, it's not really fixed, okay? As long as there's just kind of this oscillation, you'll hear me say that a lot, of light, okay? So let's say down here in the shadows underneath the covered bridge, I can color in there, and there's a shadowy area in that covered bridge area on the inside. It's darker in the design, so if it's darker in the design, I kind of hit it more with my ink, okay? Now, let's go back to that oscillation of tone, okay? I'll show you right here. Yeah, I'm putting it in the grass. I don't know. This is fall, you know. Grass is kind of, you know, drying out. But here's this oscillation of light and dark, okay? And it doesn't matter where you put it. That's the good thing. You decide where you put it. And there's no right or wrong, okay? Here's something that I'm putting behind my mill. See, like that? If I put it behind my mill, that rooftop looks a little lighter, doesn't it? So it looks like it's being top lit. The vertical sides of my buildings are a good place to put it. See this right here? Here's how it goes. It's going dark, light, dark, light, dark, okay? Light, dark, light, dark, light. And then kind of dark in here, all right? So you're kind of checkerboarding things, all right? So you don't have to look at things kind of from an object standpoint. Here's the road right here, okay? A lot of people will see this road as one flat surface. Okay, it's like this flat surface right here, but it's not. It's something that's going off into the distance. That's what it represents. So something could be 5 feet from us, but then we're looking at something 20 feet from us. But oftentimes people see in space and they're thinking about it in terms of this right here. So this is a road right here, right? So they see it as something to color in uniformly like this. So if you do that, something like this, it looks like it's flat, just like this piece of paper is on my table. But if you have something kind of going off in distance like this, and you have it, you know, kind of darker, and then it's going off, and it's going lighter, 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 or it's darker, you're seeing that light is hitting it in different areas because it's space, okay? And it's not just a flat geometric object. We're talking about visual space here. So when you do something like this, it just looks like a deeper space right here than having this road colored uniformly, let's say brown or something like that. Okay? And then when you oscillate your light in here, you're saying that light is hitting it differently. All right, so when you have light hitting areas differently from a spatial, whatever context, it will always kind of influence the visual depth that you see. And it's easy to do. You just oscillate things. So if I had that light over here and this was dark here, it's not going to matter, okay? Just as long as there's a difference somewhere. Now, one of the things I do like to do too sometimes is I like to have my roads a little bit lighter than the surrounding area. I think it creates kind of a visual lead-in like that for our, you know, our viewer, which is going to be ourselves and anyone who sees your scene or card. It will allow us to enter the scene. You know, it's like you follow the light, okay? That's from the kind of an emotional standpoint. All right, let's try some peeled paint here. Maybe it's not completely brown in here, okay? Maybe there's still a little bit of green, so let's hit it with some green. All right, this is just a rolled up paper towel. Okay. All right, now I like to wipe this off a little bit because I don't want to do this and get like a big mark like that. So watch what I do here. See how I'm just lightly applying it. It's a little bit heavy, yeah, but I just know I'm going to be blending a bunch of things over the top of this anyway, so it's not really going to matter. Now, if I'm only coloring with, you know, dye-based inks, I'm probably a little bit more careful, but I know that with the paint pens to come, like I said, it's going to get kind of covered up anyway, so it won't matter much, if any. I don't know. Okay, but see this? See, I'm just barely kind of touching it like that, so I'm getting a very light application of this color. peeled paint in my lighter areas, okay? It's important to kind of follow suit, you know, when you've established kind of what's going to be light and what's going to be darker in your areas, then kind of just follow that. All right, now I've probably put a little bit too much green in my trees there, but again, I'm going to be working with kind of opaque pens in here. They're a little bit translucent. Translucent means you can see through it a little bit. But again, I don't think I need to worry about that with all the paint pen work that we'll be adding. We'll be doing like this kind of pointillism type of look. Okay, here's some pink right here, and you're saying, pink? What? I don't want pink, in my trees, but pink is a lighter form of what? Red. So, you can put a pale orange up there, or pale pink, or something like that. Okay, I'm just kind of touching this around. I'm not putting it everywhere, because, again, I want to oscillate tones and values, light and darks, okay? So I'm not just kind of doing it over everything. This is what it looks like right here, okay? Now, if you want a heavier saturation of it, go ahead. But I always start it kind of lightly. And I'm going to use this some down here in my grass as well. I think that little tinge of color looks really good down here. There's different... the grasses and bushes turn too. There's a little ground cover turns colors as well. Okay. Now everything on here is looking a little bit, I don't know, it's looking a little bit too similar, but we'll kind of add some additional contrasts in here as well. You can use alcohol pens. A lot of you have alcohol pens. You can do that too. If you're going to add alcohol pen work in here, I would do it after you've kind of established all of the dye-based things that you're going to. Here's a little bit brown. You can kind of blend on glossy cardstock really well too, because it doesn't absorb and grab all of your ink really fast. Okay, so you can kind of move that around. I'm kind of blending in. I'm going with darker tones and adding in some lighter ones. You can get on your mill much easier than using a paper towel. Okay, look at that. Let's change the color scheme from this roof here. Okay, see that? Kind of have it darker in the back and transition it lighter like that. This is just one color right here. And I can kind of add a little bit more around my mill. Okay, so here's that transitioning going from dark back here to light up here. You see how that kind of pulls your attention in here. Here's some tones in here that we've blended in. This is going to look kind of crazy when I start adding in those other tones in here with the paint pens, I know. It's going to be, the thought process is kind of putting it out of whack a little bit, and then you kind of reel it back in with some additional white paint pen work, okay? Okay, now speaking of that, let's get into the paint pens here. Now, I don't know what these are going to look like on here. I haven't done this enough, but let's give it a try here. And then this is also the first time I've used these really bold ones on top of glossy cardstock. Okay, now I've used smaller pens, but not these big bold ones. Okay, so the whole idea is to go fairly bold right here. Okay, I'm kind of, not targeting anything too specifically here. I do want this to be, orange is looking much lighter than a lot of the areas that I've added it into so far. Added color to with dye-based inks and alcohol inks. Some areas that I added to, like on the tops of some of these trees that I didn't color in, of course it's a darker orange to, white. But down here it's looking like a light orange against darker walnut stain, or, all those different colors like that. Okay, so just kind of adding it around. I'm not coloring it in like this, okay? I'm doing more of like a stipple type of work. And no, it isn't blending in whatsoever. And it won't, okay? It's just, that's not kind of the idea here. The idea here is to kind of give this kind of a real shimmery, different look, okay? Okay, so this is what it looks like. I mean, it looks totally crazy in there. And it's not blending in, because that'll come, hopefully. I don't know. But that's the concept, I guess you could say. Okay, now here's red. Now here's where I wish I had some other tones of red. This is a little bit too crazy, but so be it. All right, now where I add this over the orange is still wet, okay? So, and if I put a drop of, this red, or a dot of red, not a drop, over some of that orange, then the two might physically mix, the paint. Sometimes it's an optical kind of blend, but, with two wet paints sitting there on the surface, oftentimes they merge. Okay, now one of the things I'm finding, this acrylic starts to set up pretty fast, so sometimes when I'm going over with this red onto that sticky orange, that it's kind of drying out my tip, because I might pick up some of that orange that's drying on my tip. So just kind of scribble it off if you find that you're not getting a good flow. Alright, so here's some of this red. It's kind of, matching some of these leaves up here. Maybe I'll put a couple of these up here on my leaves, okay? Putting a little bit of a red up there. And it looks, it's not supposed to be like berries or something like that, but just kind of a different value of red up top. Okay. Now that's not merging in at all yet. Okay, now let's go down here in the grass. Okay, let's bring some of this texture. You can't have that texture in one area. It just doesn't make sense without kind of making it, pretty uniformly applied to different areas. So this green really stands out, so. It's kind of like I'm highlighting, but, there's no shadows down here, so it looks really kind of weird. But for those pointillists out there, whoever worked in those kind of dots back when, and that's what they were seeing probably on their paintings, as they worked on them. They just get through one or two colors. It just doesn't make sense from a, kind of a color scheme standpoint. All right, so this is what it looks like right now. I always show this and I always mention it because I know what people do. They're on step, kind of 2 or whatever, 10 of 100 or something like that. This isn't going to have 100 steps. Let's say they're on step 2 of 15, okay? They're saying, well, my God, this doesn't look like the end result that they have in their head because they saw a reference. Well, mine doesn't either. You have to kind of build up to that kind of point. And sometimes, there's certain types of techniques that just, I don't know, they never really kind of come together until you do that, like, last step. And that brings it all together. And I don't see that this one is too, much different than that notion. Okay, I'm going on the road with this one. I'm putting it into my grass as well. But definitely going into my road down here, because that needs a similar texture as well. I don't think I want to put it, these just aren't, I don't think I want to put it on my mill, okay? Okay, I'm going up in my trees. I don't want a lot of this color, but I'm going to overlap it with some other colors so it'll be like a sub-color. But this is the way that I can bring some additional continuity, color continuity, from one zone to the next. So there's different zones in here. There's the grass, there's the road, the sky, trees. I guess this overhanging tree area, that kind of the overhanging tree area is more of the sky area, but Okay. Let's take a look and see what that looks like now. Look at all those dots. See that red, how it's real juicy and wet, but see that orange right there isn't really that shimmery anymore. So I think that orange might be fairly dry, but the red's still setting up. But this is the way it looks, okay? It's kind of, it kind of makes sense from, I don't know, it looks like, it makes a little bit more sense from a distance. Okay, this is like a dull yellow here. Well, let me go with the kind of more a canary yellow. Okay. I'm turning this so I don't have to put my hand on all this wet ink, or paint right here. Okay, now this yellow really stands out quite a bit. Okay, so I might be a little bit more kind of conservative with the application because it does stand out, unless I want that to be the dominant kind of color in my color scheme in here, okay? Alright, it's kind of bringing everything to life though. Let's put some of it down here in the grassy area. I need to address that water, and I'll come in there with some blue or something like that too. Yeah, this looks pretty good. I think it's kind of bringing everything to life a little bit. It's like, it looks definitely happier, that's for sure. All right. Let's hit that water a little bit. Dye-based ink would probably be good. Oh, but let me just hit it with a little bit of a... I'll just hit it with the paint pen. I can't really transition it really well with the paint pen, but I'm going to hit that with white pigment ink anyway, so shouldn't be a problem. Okay, hitting dots with the darker blue in here. Okay. All right. Let's see. Making an assessment. Let's go with that dull yellow now. Okay. Let's see if that's a subtle difference. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a dull compared to that canary. This is kind of at the point where this is almost more painting than it is stamp, project. Stamp project is like paint project. But nevertheless, quite fun to watch come together. I'm not, at this point in time, I'm kind of clustering some of these areas, okay? Now, I'll show you what I'll do with this kind of beige here, okay? I'll hold this up. But I'm kind of clustering it to like where there's these mounds in the in the meadow here. Okay, it just gives that big open space a little bit more structure. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so see here, it goes from those lighter toned areas. Okay, it looks white, but it's not. It's this beige right here. But see how I kind of cluster it, cluster like that? So it gives it a little bit more shape. It's like there's mounds instead of this being a flat area. Okay, same thing right here. There's more here, here, and here. You know, I taper it off a little bit too, but you know, that's the structure. Okay, now let's do the same thing in here. Now, personally, I think that I can use a little bit more orange up here and red for those fall colors. I'm just seeing if there was another orange. There isn't. Let's go back to this one. I could use like a pastel orange or something like that, or a brighter orange. I could use a couple more versions of this, I think. Orange and brown. Well, I guess I'd have to buy a bigger set then. I don't know. Okay, I want to go a little bit more orange up here just to be a kind of a bolder statement on those tones. Okay, now let's bring a little bit of a relationship between those trees in there, and we'll say that these foreground trees right here, these overhanging ones, are the same variety, so I'll put some orange on them. Down here too, see this black impression right here, I'll put some of this orange down here on this bush. You know, it could be just a small version of, you know, those maples or whatever they are in the background. Let's go with a little bit more red too. Be a little bit bolder with that. I'll kind of cluster a few these dots in an area, a few areas. I always think I can go a little bit bolder with my reds you know, when I do these scenes like this. Okay, I'm putting some of this on this bush right here. Okay, and I'm going to put a few kind of in the middle, like, you know, some leaves have fallen, okay? That. So how's this? There's a pointillist's, you know, craziness. Now, if I just left it at that, I know it's nuts, and it always looks like that too, okay? Until you bring in your final, you know, touches, which I'll do in a bit here. But let's move to white, okay? I'm going to see about white. I can use it down here on the road. I won't be able to see it very much because white on very late antique linen, you know, won't show up too much, but on this road where it starts getting darker, I can kind of transition some of these white dots into it. I can bring out a little bit more lightness in the light, like that. I'm just kind of reiterating what's already down there. Okay, I'm not trying to do anything. I don't think I might not need to go in with my fine point ones on this scene at least. Okay, let's go in with some white. Okay, so I'll try to make these trees look a little bit more billowy and nuanced, you know, with you know, they're not just a flat tree, but they have nuances. I notice where I'm going over the red, it looks pink, you know, because these they're not quite the pens aren't quite opaque. Now, I could seal this and then go over it with this, and, you know, I won't get that bleed in. But I really don't mind the bleed in, though, most of the time. I think in the past I needed to do some things for certain scenes, but for the most part, I think it all kind of helps with the blending process. I'm still kind of debating on whether or not I want to put some highlights on top of that mill, or if I really want it just to stand out on its own, you know, very strongly without having kind of this texture in it. Maybe I need to, otherwise it would go too nuts. Okay, I went down here in the water. Let's go down there in that water again. I went light, then dark over light. Now I'll go with light over dark again. This one's a little bit of a different blue, I think, than I used before. They do have some good blues. This one has a slightly warm tinge to it, a little bit of, tiny bit of yellow in it. Okay, now I went down there in my water, and we'll come into it with white. I think this is really going to merge with that light blue that I just laid down, because the light blue is so wet still. But so be it. All right. Oh, I'm going to use my little tiny 0.7 millimeters pen to get my fence leading up to the covered bridge. Okay. I just think it makes it stand out quite a bit more. Okay. I totally put my hand in some area down here that had a lot of white. You can see it's all over my finger right here. I don't see where it is, though, so it's not really a big deal to me. Okay. That is that. Do I need any more of this? I might put some more detailed marks after I do my kind of fogging in here. Okay. Kind of doing a little counter bend here. I think I do need to heat set this. Why not? Okay, now this isn't some kind of super fast drying paint that when you heat set it, it dries real fast. It's just basically plain acrylic. But I just want to get it slightly dry so that when I come in here with my cotton ball and white pigment ink, I'm not smearing a bunch of, super bright red paint everywhere and getting big white paint spots, okay? I might get that still, but I won't get it as severely. Now, naturally, before we can let it dry and set up just fine. But I don't feel like waiting here, so. Okay, now I'm looking for my Brilliance white pad. Oh, here it is right on top. I thought this was the silver. Okay. All right, now where I'm going to add this isn't... See, I didn't color in my sky in here, so I can come in with kind of a mist coming over the tops of those trees in there. Everything looks a little bit too crazy for me. It's just so busy, okay, right now. Which I knew would happen because, there's just crawling with little tiny dots everywhere, okay? But let's go in here, and I'll show you how I bring all this together. I'm going to give a workshop on this, I think, because, I don't know, if more people employ this technique right here, for me, it solves all of my kind of visual issues. And there's nothing that kind of a white paint fog over the top of something can't solve, from a scenic standpoint. Probably other ones too. Okay, so I'm coming in here. And I'm transitioning out. I'm just going like this and leaving a big ball, I'm kind of going down onto my tree, so there's a little bit more right here, and then it transitions down like that, okay? Ooh, there was a lot of pigment ink on that one. I really kind of squished this one into my pad that time, okay? But I think that looks pretty good. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. let's put some on these trees up here, these overhanging tree limbs, okay? I'll kind of put more light like that, like it's reflecting off some of that light. And see over here? On this tree in the background like that. Look how it pushed that tree backwards a lot, okay? Come over here. It's like the light is kind of streaming through some of these leaves, right? See how that really changes the kind of the textural spirit of the place. You still have the texture, but then you also have the softness and mellowness in there. Okay, so textured and super busy. And we'll come in here like this with some blanket of fog. And it just makes it less, I don't know, I guess it's still busy, but it's not as like hectic, maybe we can say, from a visual standpoint again. See that right there? Look how that covered bridge is kind of blending in there now. See, it's kind of merging over here. Now, let's put some fog kind of at the base of this meadow, okay? So see where those trees end right over here. I'll just kind of have this low line fog down here, like that. See that? It's going up in my trees a little bit. It's coming down in my meadow a little bit. I'll just kind of keep hitting it there if I want it a little bit lighter. I think I want it really quite light right here. Look how far it pushed that fence in the back. See, it was uniform to this one, but that one looks a lot different. All right, here it is with the water. Now remember, I kind of got, really kind of, I don't know, kind of crazy with that water with the paint pen down there. Now you kind of put some of this over it, like this. See, I'm putting some over my covered bridge as well. See that? I don't know, don't you think it's kind of coming together now? What you're doing is you're putting kind of the similar texture in each of the zones here. You have it in sky, background trees, focal point in the bridge. So you have a common texture, and it's very uniform that you're running over all the different zones. You're not filling up and covering everything with it, but I'm saying I just have some of this in each zone here, okay? Here it goes on the road. See, I didn't get my, little blend down here, nicely applied, but no matter. I just kind of blend it in at this step. Okay. Bring some over here, actually in the foreground too, if I want to. I keep adding more and more. You just kind of add a little bit at a time, and if you like it, just add a little bit more. The white pigment ink will dry darker than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied, so you have to go a little bit more. Now, what you can do is when you're getting used to this, you just go a certain amount, let it dry, and then if you want to add more, then just add more, okay? I always kind of see how things are going to be working. I just know because I've done this a ton of times, but when you're getting used to it, you have to kind of get used to appearances that aren't going to be necessarily so when the various media dries, okay? All right, so that is that there. Look how atmospheric it is. Okay. Let's heat set this a little bit. Okay, now this is the brilliance pigmenting, so that's going to dry fairly fast. I don't know if it dried just then, completely, but I just wanted to get a little bit dry because I was thinking, now that I have all this kind of fog in here, a lot of times what I like to do is I like to bring in some additional foreground in here, something nice and crisp over the top of everything that's so soft in here. So I'm just going, with my tried and true reeds here, I'm going to stamp it in Brilliance Black, okay? And Brilliance Black is a pigmenting, so it'll go right over the top of the Brilliance White, no problem. Remember, this is a road going down here, so I'm not going to close off the road like that, okay? I'm going to leave an opening over there. Okay, so this is a nice crisp black impression. I think it looks pretty good here in the foreground like that. Okay. Debating on whether or not I want some additional foreground leaves coming down. Let's go for it. Okay. Let's go with the Brilliance Black again, but we'll do these overhanging leaves. Now we went black with it, then we went red. Now let's go black again. Okay, like this. I'm not trying to stamp it exactly over my former impressions. I want it to be off-center a little bit from it, okay? So that I get kind of a variety of different values within that same space, using the same image, giving that area additional depth, okay? Now I'm doing it in black. It's just supposed to be kind of closer to us, when you get in the shadows and whatnot. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I think we've created a lot more depth right up there. But here we go. See how crazy busy those little dots are down here? You can see all throughout there. But this is the viewing distance right here, approximately, okay? And I think it looks pretty good from a distance like that, but you have that extra benefit of, someone looks at your piece with closer inspection, they're going to go, wow, look at all those little dots in there, okay? But pretty good atmospherics and whatnot. And I think, as crazy as, these big paint pens are, this is a quarter page little thing. And, there's areas in here that aren't so bold. These are kind of smaller designs used all around in here. It's it's quarter page scene altogether, but when we're utilizing these things, we're utilizing them over different imagery, individual imagery or whatnot. Well, that whole row of trees or something like that, but it's fairly bold. But when you blend in things like this, I don't think it looks too hectic or like it's vibrating. I don't think it's like vibrating in terms of a visual texture, even with all these little colors that are all tightly, bound to one another. Okay, I think it's reasonably harmonious in here. Look at that bridge, next to all that busyness right up there. But there's a lot of depth right within that space. And then again, that's because of the use of the white to just kind of mellow things out quite a bit. And I don't know, it kind of brings it all together. So, I don't know. White paint and a cotton ball. White ink, I should say. It always reminds me of white paint. Okay, so there you have it right there. That's your secret right here to, scene harmony, no matter how kind of crazy busy something can get. And that's kind of the epitome of color craziness going on, in this type of application right there. So it's kind of the extremes, but look at that meadow down there. It just kind of, I don't know, shimmers with all those different colored dots down there in different values. Okay. All right. So I just thinking that little fine tuning right here. I have to be careful not to put it over that black. Although that black is brilliant, so it's drying pretty fast. All right, so anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene. The paint pens work just fine on the glossy cardstock. I think they're mostly dry at this point in time. And I think the glossy looks pretty good with those. You know, you get that extra little shimmer to it and whatnot. And it's a lot of fun. All right, so anyways, thanks for tuning into the channel. If you like this video, I hope you like, share, and subscribe. And possibly leave even a comment, okay? See you on the next... All right, I couldn't resist, but just formatted this simply onto a pre-folded card, but I had the perfect quote for this one, so I decided to format, but I tried to quote the quote in different areas on here, but I don't know, it just covered up too much, so here it is. Autumn is the second spring when every leaf is a flower. Then we have all these little leaves, or, you know, little dots around the edge there, just like we've applied on the front. So a little bit of visual continuity between the front and the interior there. Just a little bit of a kind of a graphic little, I don't know, needle and thread between the main area and the interior. All right, so anyways, let's take a look at this. This.